drowned elegiac youth. Light's bloom lay in disrepair, wounded, lest it be called indulgent, earth-proof, overly lush. Sipped beer, bourbon, wine, spoke with bubbles in their throats, blew bubbles when they smoked instead of smoke. A meeting, it seemed, albeit angular, diffuse, a rogue's way with aspect, flecked. A synesthetic dance they could taste, called it poppin'. Hop invaded tooth, tongue, jaw. A great gift it seemed, bubble talk ascending as it did even so. Brass rallied abject reed. Dawn's colors came on without warning. Children of the night, though they and we were. Light's bloom was back, or it was we were lightheaded, lit heads loose in a dream of light. On a lit canvas, what could have been us, blown away, was Ondumbuluous we, Ondumbuluous they, wasn't Ondumbuluous both. What to say? There was a was, there was a wasn't. The vehicle we boarded held both, blew up. What to say? There was an us, there was a them. The beginnings of light, this was to say, abated. Weakening glow begun to be said goodbye to, flecked air falling through by motes. I squint, it went to say, went awry. These children, we said, sucking our teeth. Newly come, albeit chronic, elders, reached out, drew back less than what was reached with. Nub it now was we came to. Tokens fell from the sky. Nub was where we were, where we'd been, where we'd be. Chronic, no less newly come. I'm going to read from the book that Dimitri mentioned, which is forthcoming, a book called Bass Cathedral. And it's the fourth in the series, From a Broken Bottle. And the series is a series of letters written by N, a musician, founding member of a band based in Los Angeles, which has had a number of names. Its current name is the Molimo Matet. It used to be called the Mystic Horn Society. And the letters have to do with the band's music and surrounding circumstance. And they're addressed to an angel, angel of dust. And in this letter, which is towards the beginning of the book, this letter comes out of the fact that the band has put its first record together, and this is back in the days of vinyl, in the early 80s, and it's called Orphic Bend. And one of the things that happens in the volume preceding Bass Cathedral, Atet AD, is that the band begins to be beset by comic strip balloons. They play music, and a balloon will emerge from the bell of a saxophone or an oboe or a trumpet. And they are quite perplexed by this. They don't know quite what the source of this is or quite what it means. But it brings a level of attention to their music that they feel, well, they end up feeling ambivalent about. And this continues, these balloon visitations continue in Bass Cathedral. And the first one actually occurs in an unusual way in that the band receives a test pressing of this 3-record set. And while they're listening to one of the tracks, Dream Thief, during the bass player's solo, Aunt Nancy's solo, balloons begin to emerge from the vinyl. And this is a new development because they've never they've always occurred in live performances and come out of the instruments. But this is actually coming out of the vinyl artifact. And there's writing inside the balloons, and in this instance, the balloons have a good deal to say about this guitar that Aunt Nancy seems to be telling us about playing, a guitar strung with straw, and in subsequent conversations, it turns out that her father had made such a guitar for her when she was a little girl, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, this particular letter has to do with the performance at a place called Onaji's in LA. And some of the initial things that Ian has to say have to do with this question of the balloons and the straw-strung guitar. Dear Angel of Dust, thank you for your letter. You raise questions I can't give the space I wish I could. Why Aunt Nancy's guitar spoke to me so, I can't say. Straw had to do with anesthetic detour, resonances coaxed from unprepossessing string. Foothills burnt brown in the summer came to mind. Dry grass, dry weed, and dry scrubs, inauspicious remit. It seemed I wandered those hills and heard voices, beset by anesthetic audition, endowed with a recondite ear. Straw sought an accord with laryngitic declivity, an eviscerated call or cry, swallowed cry. Straw may well have been, I sensed it had to be, scratch to laryngitic itch, retrospect epiphany, suspect epiphany, rendered moot. Still, an advancing choir filled the dead summer air with faint, unlikely sound, tangential voices or intangible voices, all diaphragm and throat, no lips, no tongue. What I wanted was to endorse, not further encumber, Aunt Nancy's guitar. That I'm not alone in having been so spoken to became evident the other night during our gig at Onaji's. Between sets, Drenette suggested we begin with Dream Thief when we went back out on stage, a suggestion no one had any problems with. So, back on stage for set 2, that's what we did. It was during Aunt Nancy's bass solo that what I'm referring to took place. She'd been at it a short while, eyes closed as they usually are when she solos, head tilted back a bit. She now brought her head down and leaned over the bass and began to strum, punctuating her fingers' address of the strings by thumping, every now and then, the wood of the bass. She thumped with her thumb and with the heel of her hand, sometimes one, sometimes the other, a now halting, now hortative colloquy of thump and strum. Leaning over the bass, hunched over the bass, she increasingly made a cave of herself, an esoteric recess whose bodily husk housed rhythmic disbursements of thump and strum. Colloquy and cave rolled into one, she and the bass effected a unified or Unitarian house of sound, a first antiphonal church of thump-inflected strum. It was into this church that Drenette stepped in making a move that took us all by surprise. As Aunt Nancy delved more deeply into the strum and thump line she pursued, eyes closed, her back to the wall, it seemed, of the cave she made of herself, Drenette picked up the duffel bag she keeps on the floor near the foot of the hi-hat, the bag she keeps cowbells, maracas, and such in. She picked it up and reached into it, taking out not a cowbell, maracas or such, but a small guitar, a rough and ready affair she later told us she herself had made by attaching a sawed-off broomstick to a cigar box and using fishing cord for strings. So moved she'd been, she said, by the test-pressing balloons. No balloons came out of Aunt Nancy's bass on this occasion, but Drenette, in an allusion to the test-pressing emergence which, surprising though it was obvious even at the time, took out the guitar and began to play. Aunt Nancy, hunched over the bass, eyes closed, hardly expected the answering strum she heard coming from where Drenette sat.